Hello, and welcome to Talking Beyond Trauma. I appreciate an opportunity to be part of another MHTTC program, and this time, we asked the hard question. How do you get ready to support learning and growth for students and for yourself? Today, we explore the practice called mindful self-compassion. We look at what it is, what it isn't, and how it helps us all be better at seeing ourselves and others. For those of you who left us feedback asking for a school-specific session, we thank you. We heard you and hope this discussion broadens your scope and helps you add to your professional and your personal cup. In today's session, we will be talking with Dr. Natalie Fekosh. Dr. Fekosh is a mental health professional and educator. Her educational experience began as an elementary school teacher, reading interventionist, professional school counselor at both the elementary and secondary level, campus administrator, and district level administrator. She lives by the motto, "You can't pour from an empty cup," and aspires to promote self-care and self-compassion in all areas of her life. She is passionate about growing leaders as a certified Dare to Lead trainer. She's been trained by Dr. Brene Brown. Amongst many interesting conversations about workplace wellness, Natalie and I share a passion for and often discuss the need for increasing the capacity of school staff and administrators. Following up on her pour from an empty cup motto, we decided to meet formally to discuss tools to assist educators and other employees working in the school mental health arena. We have a great discussion lined up for you today. Let's see what Dr. Fekosh has to say about finding balance, being aware of ourselves, and how the two help us make connections and increase productivity in school. It's real talk with real people. Welcome to Talking Beyond Trauma. I think what stands out for me in your pathway, and thank you for your vulnerability and your authenticity, is very few leaders talk about the time where it all went south, right? That despite their best intentions, despite their values for helping, you were clearly a dedicated helper, a dedicated professional helper. And then life takes over, or, it just doesn't add up the way we thought it would add up. I've been there. And then we ask ourselves that hard question of, what do we do now? What made you really decide you were going to take this more macro approach to helping the helpers?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I reflect on this a lot, daily, I would say. I think that honestly, it began with a one-word exercise that I did with the staff I was supporting, the amazing professional school counselors. And we chose one word for that school year. And my word that year was balance. We operationalized it. We talked about what it looked like, whatever our word was. So, some counselors their words were integrity, some were kindness, whatever. And honestly, had it not been for my immediate team, my integrity partners, that we had a safe relationship and they could tell me, Natalie, you're not balanced. Like, that was the slap in the face I needed. And that also led to a lot of time in prayer, time to just step away and self-reflect. And then that next January, after I had resigned from my position, my word was surrender. I just felt like if I surrendered, let's just see what's next. Obviously my heart is in helping the helpers. And that's when the opportunities just started coming. Working with Brene Brown's Beberg and being trained to be a certified Dare to Lead facilitator, and then opportunities to go speak about wellness and really pour my heart into presentations and training about wellness, how that aligns with leadership. And so I think it was the exercise that we did, not at that time even really knowing that I was operationalizing my values. I did not have the vocabulary for that at the time. I do now. And then honestly, my friends, my coworkers, my colleagues who just were there for me. And then now, kind of fast forward, I would say like I am so much more open and aware, and I just notice. I notice things that come my way, things that don't come my way, conversations, meetings, things I learn, opportunities. I just am more noticing.
So, something that's keying in for me is the word balance, because you've used it a number of times in our discussion. And I think most of us are striving for that place of balance, a place of not a euphoria, right? There's no utopian kind of thing, but just a place where there's a level of contentment, right? I could do what I came here to do today. I came here to help the kids and teach and educate, or I came on campus so I could support the work that teachers and counselors and other folks are doing, or lead those individuals. And I heard you say in your description of your experience that you fell out of balance, and so much so that it almost took you away from the field altogether. Two things that stood out for me in that was your willingness to be authentic about that. So few of us see those types of challenges as something to wrap our brain around. We tend to like to fix those things. And then it didn't sound like it was self-discovery for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. It sounded like other people gave you that feedback. So I'm curious, were the people that gave you the feedback in positions of authority over you? Were these other colleagues? Were these colleagues that you supervised? Who were these people that gave you the feedback that you were out of balance?
Yeah. So it was my direct team that I supported. I don't like to use the word supervise. Um, and it's just an amazing group of women that are still some of my closest friends. And they were just real, like, you're not balanced, Natalie. And I think a lot of that came from back to kind of my intro where we had operationalized those words and talked about them and really strived to live into whatever our values were for that year. But also, like, one of the platforms I stood on as the director in that position was preaching and promoting wellness for the counselors and the team I worked with. And I was preaching it and I was promoting it and I was creating space for them to be well outside of the school hours and give them tools and strategies, but yet I was not doing that. So yeah, it was my team, affectionately known as Team Awesome.
Yeah, they sound like they were awesome. They also sound like they were comfortable. So few times I think I might be out of sorts. I've grown in environments, work environments, where my leadership encouraged what you discussed as your experience, where individuals were able to, no matter what role they had, no matter what title they had, they were able to walk up to me and say, "You look a little out of sorts today, Mordecai," or "You're not on point. Something's not right. I can't put a name on it. Maybe we could talk about it." Um, I've been encouraged by those work environments. I also know that those work environments are not commonplace. And it does take me to a challenge, if you will, of what what do organizations that provide these services for other humans going to have to do to create an environment like you did, one where no matter who you are, if you're on my team, you feel comfortable enough to tell me, even as your leader, that you don't think that I'm in a present, mindful place, knowing that the work that we do will impact those counselors, those teachers, those support staff, and the children, in this case, in the school setting, that they influence.
That's really important. And I think back to many teams I've been a part of in my career and in my life, or just groups I've been around. And I think it requires a level of vulnerability where you're truly, as the leader, the colleague, the whatever, feel safe and sure enough of who you are and have a level of self-awareness that you can share, like, hey, not having a good day today. And so there's a level of vulnerability. There's a level of authenticity and self-awareness. And then I feel like there's also a level of safety that has to be there. Because I can also think about systems I've been a part of where that it wasn't safe to really be vulnerable and share, if I was not going to be at 100%. And I think back, it actually takes me back to when I was a teacher. I obviously didn't have, the experiences I have now or the knowledge because I was way much younger. But I can remember doing a check-in even with my students. Like every day they would come in, and before we had like ways to do that electronically or just like with post-it notes, we would just check in. Hey, how y'all doing today? How you feeling? And we would start every day with some sort of exercise to really get the pulse for the room. And I would be real with my students, like, y'all, I'm at 40% today. We would talk in percentages because I was a math teacher. I'm at 40%. I had a sick child last night. I was up till 2 a.m. We got home late from my husband's basketball game. And so I'm tired and I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to give you 100% of my 40%, but just bear with me today. And I think that goes back to relationships too, right? I had relationships with my students and I was able to be vulnerable even in that teaching space. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but I think there's a level of vulnerability, authenticity, and safety that come with that.
It's more than helpful. It's definitely helpful. It's also something you have to practice. And so you talked about modeling it at the leadership level. What I heard happening is what's going to happen either way. There's an interaction with the people we serve. In this case, your students, who can detect that something is wrong or different, who do need the safety enough to ask. Just, we're dealing with kids and even with our colleagues, folks who have had experiences where the reason they're asking you, hey, what's going on with you, is because they've seen that face before, or they know what that leads to. It can lead to bad outcomes. Maybe that they're having some type of a stress response to your stress response. So creating the practice, I'm assuming you did that as a teacher. Other teachers may have done this. What would you have said that this was normative in the school environments that you were in? Or is it kind of something that you did, or maybe a few other people did it out of a sense of comfort, but not something that was organizationally supported?
I would say it was normative in my classroom. I never really was able to enter other classrooms until I left the classroom and started serving as a reading interventionist and then as a school counselor, along that journey. And there are a lot of teachers who do that, which is great. So I don't know if it's the norm. My experience was that is starting to become the norm, especially in a post-pandemic-ish world. We now have a lot of systems that people are checking in with their students. And yeah, so I hope it's normal. Like we should know how we should be able, as the leader of the classroom, as the orchestra, the choral director of the orchestra of learning, like we should be able to tell our students how we're feeling, and they should be able to do the same.
I appreciate that. I support that 100%. I also, I believe the same energy that we would do that for our youth and young adults. We have to do that for each other. at the leadership level. So your piece is that practitioner piece on campus, school counseling, guidance. Mine is, how do we create that space that we keep talking about, this kind of environment that is consistent in the way that it treats how we even address mindfulness. Are we being compassionate to each other is probably a great preface to whether or not I'm going to be compassionate to myself. If I don't feel safe to speak about my vulnerable moment, whether that's a moment of excellence or a moment of what I see as fault or a misgiving, something that goes wrong, I'm less likely to encourage anybody to do it. I think that that's just contagious. That becomes the norm. Empathy is a superpower. Who we are is how we lead. Now, these are catchy phrases, and I'm not an advocate for slogans and buzzwords, but these are true statements. Think of people you know and how they arrive. You may live or work with them. Maybe you share common tasks. Now think of this. Are they predictably disconnected? How does that impact you when you interact with them? How do you impact them when you show up? We need to be able to access our superpower, if that's what we're going to call it, so we can work effectively with others. We need to pay attention to how we show up, be comfortable with naming our feelings and considering others, so we can unleash the super within each one of us. I love that we get to talk about this at the mom and pop level as well as the practitioner level. And we're at the practitioner level. The folks who do this work every single day have already developed their own approaches to staying in the game, right? Some of that stuff is healthy. I could tell you from my own experience, my supervisions weren't chock filled with mindful activities. They weren't chock filled with breath work and naming where your feet are right now or any of that. What they were about 9 out of 10 times was what you're going to do to get this work done. It was task oriented. It wasn't always person centered, but on occasion it was. And we did get to have those conversations and we did connect, but we didn't connect in a way, in my opinion, that helped me name in real time and have an awareness of what I was doing, not just to myself, but to others. And then following up on that, this idea of then what do you do with that? How do you treat yourself well as you work through some of those struggles and those challenges, right? When you add, in my opinion, 50, 60, 70 people in a building who are now responsible for behaving, but they're all kind of acting the way I just talked about acting, you really aren't going to get folks who are attending to one another, but their job is to attend to other people. And so that in and of that contradiction in and of itself, one would think would just implore leaders in school settings and in any setting where humans are being serviced, frankly, to say, no, not just a space. This needs to be part of our ongoing practice of no matter what we do, how we start our meetings, how we do our hiring, how we do our counseling, how we do our discipline, how we do our restorative work, how we do all of those things has to have this component built within it if we expect teachers, counselors, bus drivers, nursing staff, SROs, all those people to behave a particular way. They have to be mindful, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think for me, it's like when I think about this corporately, I say there's a challenge before the school leadership, but it can't start there. It has to be normative. We all have to create and play our part in being mindful for ourselves. And then hopefully we can self-govern. You know, we use the language of collaborating around these norms and co-constructing purpose that basically says we believe in mindful activities here. We believe in giving each other permission, and we believe in giving each other compassion and care because we expect ourselves to do that with these kids. I hear crickets when I'm walking into rooms and talking to leaders and hearing this stuff because I think it's very overwhelming what we're saying to them sometimes. Like, well, how? How do I do that? How do I do that with all these people, Natalie? How do I do that with all these people, Mordecai? Um, but I'm hearing it's a very simple answer. Model it one person at a time.
Absolutely. Another one of my most favorite quotes from Dr. Brene Brown: who we are is how we lead.
Say that twice.
Who we are is how we lead. Dr. Brown defines a leader as anyone who sees the potential in people or processes and processes, and who has the courage to develop that potential. That's every single staff member, professional educator, school leader by title. And who we are is how we lead. If we are showing up to teach our students in our classroom or lead a classroom, a campus of 100 professional educators, and we're burnout, stressed out, overwhelmed, that's how we're leading. If we show up innovative, excited, refreshed, energized, that's how we're leading. And they're watching. If you're walking onto your school campus every day with a pep in your step and excited, and you're taking good care of yourself, and you are asking for what you need, you have a level of self-awareness where you ask for what you need, you get what you need, that's how you're showing up. If you're walking onto your school campus every day frazzled, exhausted, overwhelmed, burnout, stressed out, they're watching. And that almost normalizes it beyond the classroom. It normalizes it for our students. It normalizes it for the families that come to our campuses. So, I mean, as if being a professional educator is not already a unseemingly like overwhelming. Oh, it is an overwhelming career calling. This is just another layer to for us to consider whenever we want to make sure that we're taking care of yourselves. I do know we do have some really innovative districts across several states that have built-in wellness days for their school staff, for staff to take the day to go take care of themselves. Like, what a gift. And I know that there are even some codes of conduct in schools across the country who have allowed those wellness days or mental health days, mental wellness days for their students. So we, depending on, what people are doing during that time, whatever, the hope is that they're really being mindful and being self-compassionate and giving themselves what they need. But we can do things differently.
I believe we can. I think we almost have no other choice. The industry is under huge amounts of stress. Again, post COVID, you have some educators who've decided not to do it anymore at all. Some educators who have decided that the routes by which we teach, the curricula that they were engaged and wanted to teach, are all now under some kind of scrutiny, some kind of change, or whatever it is in your particular state. And you have folks who are just walking away from the profession altogether. I think the greatest challenge, if you will, that's before them is walking into those spaces, like you said, that are where folks are modeling being frazzled, where people are modeling not having fun doing the work anymore, not having the intrinsic reward of serving their communities and serving the kids in those communities. And that education of all the things in the world has kind of turned into this: why would I ever want to be a teacher? Why would I ever want to be a social worker? Why would I ever want to be a school counselor? And the people who I know for a fact do that work are brilliant at what they do and do it with a lot of conviction, but they can't do it without capacity building. Now, you spent a lot of time helping organizations, particularly school organizations and educational organizations, build that capacity. Is modeling at the focus of your education?
I believe it is. So we can provide training and, let's say a school leader, a school district can provide training, can provide technical assistance, support, create calendars that, are a little more trauma and healing focused, trauma informed and healing focused. But it really comes back to like, are you living it? Like let's just say that I'm a school principal or a superintendent, and I firmly believe that wellness is going to be the center of everything that we do. And I bring in the best of the best training. I bring in a framework for us to put our academics on top, but I'm answering email at 4 a.m, like not really modeling wellness. And when it's a status symbol to be the last car that leaves the parking lot at 10 p.m., we have to model it.
Okay, let's talk about that. And that equation just never will work if we're not starting with ourselves.
The story I'm telling myself is that some of you are listening to what's being shared in this podcast and thinking like, okay, there's no way for me to ever achieve balance. Like as soon as I leave school, I've got to pick my child up at daycare. I've got to go home. I've got to cook dinner. I've got to help with homework. There's never any pile of laundry. There's bills to pay. There's student loans, all the things that that can happen to a lot of us. And then people may start to feel like, well, when I'm at work, yes, it's stressful and it's overwhelming. And I love my students, but I'm not balanced, but I'm okay. I'm more balanced at school than I am at home. So, working with a leadership coach, she taught me about the importance of your genius space. Like there is a place, and I would also call this self-compassion. There's a place, like, is there something probably all of us, is there a space where you feel creative, energized, like you don't need to sleep, you don't need to stop and eat, you don't need to stop and go take care of X, Y, or Z. And you could just keep like staying in that space. Like there's a lot of people who experience that. I, for example, stay up pretty late working at night, but I enjoy it and it brings me joy and it fuels my brain. And it's a form of self-compassion for me, actually. A lot of people might look at me and say, wow, she's not really balanced. She's up late at night doing all these things, working on all these projects. But to me, what I learned from my leadership coach is like, that's your genius space. That's the space where that space actually fuels you. It helps you to maintain balance. And it's easier to tap out of that when you need to, like if you're starting to get ramped up with things that are going on during the day, which led me kind of on this like journey to learn more about that. Because sometimes I will hear from my family members, it's 10:30, you're still on your computer, shut it down, come watch TV with me. And I don't want to because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And so for a while, we heard the terminology work-life balance, which after doing some research and reading some articles, like when we say that we need to have work-life balance, it really makes it feel like our work and our life are in competition with each other. Right. And then there's this conflict, internal conflict, like, okay, it's 4 o'clock. All the students are gone. I need to shut my laptop. I need to go home and do the next thing. That terminology really shifted to work-life harmony, which is where your work life and your personal life are in harmony with one another. And there's not really this competition, but they complement one another. And I recently read an article about work-life integration, which is kind of like the next level of being who you are, no matter where you are. So I am so blessed and so fortunate in working in the space I work in now at the Texas Institute for Excellence in Mental Health, like honestly, because everything I get to do, I want to do, and it brings me joy, right? I'm choosing to do it. And I feel like for me personally, it's the first time where I would say I have work-life integration. Like who I am and what I study and what I learn and what I'm passionate about is a part of me personally and professionally. There's no like division of who I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you don't have to parcel yourself out because one has precedent over the other, or
Yes. And I think at the root of that is I'm able to live into my values. I'm working in an organization where I can live into my values. And there's also been a level of self-awareness personally and professionally. And I also have given myself permission to be self-compassionate. So that was a whole lot. But just to say, I'm imagining if I would have heard this when I was in my 20s and I had 3 small children, it would have it may bring you joy at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night to grade papers and to email your students or give like really robust feedback on an assignment. And that's okay. If it brings you joy and you still feel balanced, that could actually be a form of self-compassion. So, yeah, just wanted to say that.
well, the idea of integration really resonates with me. So I I like that you mentioned that. Um, we tend to get to this portion of our discussions, and we're speaking more organizationally. We're speaking to leaders. We're talking to people who do the work, practitioners. Um, I think that we're still kind of saying the same thing in the end, is that your ability to do that at TIEMH has more to do with an alignment of what you're bringing to the table and what the organization is bringing to the table. If the organization said shut it down at 10 o'clock, no matter what, you should not be working at that time. It would, you and the organization would be out of alignment. And so if we're going to really focus on values that promote well-being of everyone in the workforce, the people we serve, the people who do the work, and the people who lead those individuals, there has to be this alignment, and we have to be consistent around that alignment. Again, we don't have to play to every, some leader somewhere is saying there's absolutely no way that I can meet the needs of everybody that works for me. And we're not suggesting that that be the case. I think what we are suggesting is, what did you say at the front door when you hired this person? What did they think they were walking into? Is this a safe enough space, as you said before, Natalie? Is it physically, mentally, morally, and ethically safe place so that I can bring my genius to the table? And that engaged behavior is wellness. Engagement is compromised based on what I keep hearing now. If you're not mindful, if you can't be compassionate to others, which starts with your own self-awareness and being compassionate with yourself. So I need to be able to be in a space. And if I'm a leader, I need to create a space where my workers can tell me what that is. What's your sweet spot? I hear genius space, I hear sweet spot. When am I going to get the most engaged work activity out of you, and how? What is it going to look like? And then let's see whether or not we're in concert with each other. If we are, awesome, let's get it. If we're not, awesome, let's move on to more developmental opportunities, or do some other things in a different way, because this is what we do here and this is how we do it. I share with you that I get to innovate in my work in a way that I've not been able to innovate in my work through my whole professional career. There's an alignment now with the organization and my sweet spot, right? But it still challenges me to name, which is not an easy thing. So there's still a lot of support that folks will need as they endeavor this journey of mindfulness, being present for themselves and others, naming difficult struggles. The stories that sometimes connect to these feelings could be very powerful, can be rooted in a lot of pain. and a lot of former pain, even with former employers. So we won't solve it all, but I know you teach to this, little shameless plug. Um, and you're going to be teaching to this.
Well, I first want to say thank you for taking my huge array of thoughts and like bringing them back to the organization level and making that connection. That was beautifully said.
Oh, I appreciate you. Sometimes I don't know. I don't know if it's beautifully said, but it is what. Wow.
That was great because you're right. It's the system, right? It's the structure. And it starts from the beginning and meeting people where they are. And
yeah, I've had a really cool time doing this. I've enjoyed this conversation, but I think it's a taster, right? I think the real stuff comes when we allow ourselves to get exposed to some of this information. If we've never been taught it, just own that. Just say it. Like there was no coursework that really pointed us in the direction of this. And depending on where we work professionally, we may or may not have received any of this kind of support. And that's really what it comes down to in the end. Our workforce is needed. Our teachers, our school staff, period, at all levels, in my opinion, need it. But I don't think it's unique to school environments either. I think that all organizations can take from what you said and begin to use this as the baseline, if you will, for learning more about this and how to help your workforce stay engaged. The most powerful conversations that I've had with you have been face to face. And I mean this sincerely, because I think you live through your value of this stuff. Self-compassion and mindfulness kind of resonates from you. I don't know if you're seeing that yet, but you are modeling your talk, and so I think that is incredibly powerful. We can all take a little bit note from your book, and I often dabble. I'm dabbling. I'm a work in progress, Natalie. I'm a work in progress. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it.
I am a work in progress too.
Well, I appreciate it again. I thank you for coming on the program and being a part of this. I'm looking forward to the day where you open up, actually, and you're leading the program. So maybe the next time around you're driving.
Whatever you need. It has been a privilege and an honor, Mordecai. It's always a lot of fun. Thank you for letting me share my heart.
This has been a great discussion. It's also been a great challenge. If I'm being honest, I don't think I have cracked the code on how to be in a constant state of self-awareness, to extend compassion and gratitude to myself as powerfully as I do for others, to be fully present at work and home. Yeah, I probably get that wrong more times than I get that right. But I understand, especially after this discussion, the need to do it and to extend myself grace when I don't act the way I'd like. Hence the challenge. I have learned this. We don't need to have all the right tools to be mindful. No special purchases need to be made unless we want to make them. We can use the most natural methods, like breathing, healthy self-talk, grounding, and nurturing our bodies to accomplish what we can't purchase. We really only need to be willing. So no matter what you choose to be your best self for you and for the people in your life, don't overcomplicate it. Just choose something. Every day we get another shot at getting better at being mindful. I accept the challenge. I hope you will as well. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Mordecai Dixon. This is Talking Beyond Trauma. It is my sincere pleasure to serve. Be well.
Thank you for tuning in to our production of Talking Beyond Trauma, which is made available by the South-Southwest Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, or MHTTC, through a cooperative agreement funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. The MHTTC's primary goal is to provide free training, share best practices, and offer ongoing support and consultation to professionals serving individuals with mental health challenges. We would like to extend our gratitude to our guest, Dr. Natalie Feacoch, and our host, Mordecai Dixon, for their contribution to this discussion. Lastly, we would like to acknowledge the hard work of our dedicated team, without whom this project would not have been possible. And thank you to Make Every Media for their partnership in the development of Season 1. Season 2 was produced by the communications team here at the Texas Institute for Excellence in Mental Health. It was recorded and edited by Mackenzie Bentley. Our theme music is by Scooter Holiday. The opinions expressed in this presentation are the views of our speakers and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services, or SAMHSA. If you'd like more information on this and other MHTTC products in the South-Southwest region, you can find a link in the episode description. This discussion was pre-recorded. We appreciate your participation and hope the discussion helped your journey.